management.
Thank you, Karen. I'm Monica Khalife, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the current environment, how we got here, and why people are considering leaving the Northeast, and then take it over to the rest of the presentation. I'll just spend a minute talking about Withum Wealth, and we are the investment arm of Withum Smith & Brown. And we provide investment advisory services to high net worth individuals, to families, to business owners, and to small institutions. And we find that they really benefit from having experts on the accounting and the wealth management side working seamlessly for them. And we are a fiduciary, which means that, by law, we have to put our clients' interests before ours. And we really do not sell any products. We do not participate in any commissions. We only get compensated by charging a fee of the assets that we manage. We do everything in-house, so we will provide in-house investment and planning solutions, which means that our clients will get a solution that's not only transparent, but it's also tax and cost effective, and it's personalized or customized to what their needs are. And with that, if you could go to the next slide, I'll just jump into the current environment. Next one. So let's start with how we started the year. I mean, we started the year in great footing. The U.S. economy was growing. The market was reaching new highs, and even on a global scale, the global economy was accelerating. Well, that all changed once it became evident that COVID-19 was going to be much worse than was initially anticipated. And, the market, being a forward pricing mechanism, started to try to anticipate what that impact would be. And this is such a sudden and massive halt to all economic activity that's unique. And many countries are experiencing a significant contraction all at the same time. And this is really even worse than it was in the Great Depression. So here in the US, the recession started in February of this year, and that ended really one of the largest economic expansions that we had on record in 10 years and 8 months. It also put a stop to the bull market that we had been enjoying since 2009. So this year, we're going to have a lot of history in the making, and there's going to be many statistics that you are going to read about, because volatility shut up. It's a historically volatile environment, and we've seen the fastest bear market decline since 1933. Like, that means that we go from a point in the market to being down 20%. It typically took 3 to 4 months for that to happen in other environments. Well, this time it took about 3 weeks. And when you look at where the market went from the highs to the lows, stocks lost about 34%. Okay, now on the flip side, once it started to be a little bit more optimism about reopening the economy and kind of getting out of this mess, we've also had the strongest 50-day period since 1952, where the market has also recovered close to 40% of some of those losses. And we do think there is a bit of a disconnect in terms of what the market has done in the past few weeks or months and where the real economy is. And we think it's going to be a longer process, perhaps, that some people are anticipating. And there's positives and there's negatives, and we think they're roughly balanced. So I'll just talk a little bit about both of them, and then we can, we'll just go into how that creates opportunities. But I'll start with the good. I'll start with the positive. On the positive side, there's massive monetary and fiscal stimulus that's been obviously put out here in the US by the Fed and the government, but also on a global scale. So that means that there's plenty of liquidity that's keeping the markets functioning, and also as a result of having this stimulus and having rates to be again at historical lows, it means that there's also not many alternatives. There's a lack of alternatives of where to put your money. So that also provides a positive to the market. And talking about money, there's also huge amounts of cash to the tune of $5 trillion on the sidelines that got out of the market, and perhaps we're waiting for an opportunity to get back in, but the moves have been so wild. So that should provide some support on the downside. And also, you know, it will be a bumpy road, but we have started to see some positives and some signs of an improving economy. So we don't think it's going to be that V-type recovery. It's going to be a bumpy road, but you are starting to see some improvement. And finally, you have hundreds and hundreds of brilliant people throughout the world looking for a cure, for a treatment, for a vaccine. And we do think that there's been some positive steps in that area too. Now, you know, when we look at the negatives, well, the first is that when we start to look at second quarter numbers, economic data, earnings, they're going to be terrible. They're really going to be terrible in some industries. It's going to take a lot longer for them to really go back to where they were pre-COVID. But you know, the second quarter should really be the worst of it. Now, as some economies are starting to reopen, there's also concerns about, again, are we getting rising infections, or are we going to have a second wave in the fall? And to add fuel to the fire, there's also a political uncertainty here in the United States. We're in an election year, also on a global scale. And you know, when it comes specifically to the markets, because we've had this huge move on the upside, and it's been a little bit too fast, a little bit too much, we have a market that's significantly overbought, and valuations are also not cheap, so they're elevated. But from our perspective, we use this. I mean, this environment creates opportunities, and creates opportunities in the investment side, by being able to rebalance portfolios, so we can add to investment, to asset classes that are depressed. So that gives us, an opportunity to also be buying low. It also gives us an opportunity to sell those asset classes or those investments that can create a tax shield for us and continue to do tax loss harvesting. But it also creates some opportunities on the financial planning side. And for that, I'm gonna, my colleague Elena Ladigina will give us a little bit more detail on those opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica, and thank you everybody for being here and listening to us. As Monica mentioned, the times of volatility and uncertainty is a lot of times good for us, because it does give us opportunities to plan for our clients, to do investment strategies for our clients. So today we're just going to focus primarily on one strategy that we have been talking a lot to our clients about on the financial planning side. But really if we could go to, so if we could go to the next slide. So there's really two tax savings opportunities that the relief package has given us. The first one is that the CARE Act has granted those that are in the required minimum distribution stage, RMDs, ability to pause their required distributions for this year. And what that means for them is that you are able to save taxes in 2020. So you have a choice of whether you want to take your RMDs, or you can skip this year and save on the taxes. But the piece that sometimes people forget is that the required minimum distributions add to your overall income. And that relates as it comes to Medicare premiums and taxation of Social Security. So it's an important thing to consider, is whether it would be advantageous for you to pause it for this year so that you can save taxes on those things as well. Another strategy that has become more attractive in this environment is what's called a Roth IRA conversion. It has been around. This is something that you're able to do every year, but it has gotten to be more attractive for several different reasons. And what Roth IRA conversion allows you to do is to transfer some of your traditional IRA assets to a Roth IRA. And by doing so, the IRA owners can pay taxes at the current low rates and maybe potentially lower market prices than they did before. And now the strategy really, I'm going to go through some of the aspects of it, has a lot of benefits. It could be expensive because you have to pay the tax bill now. So you really want to make sure that it's appropriate for you. Speak to your tax advisor. So what is a Roth IRA conversion? When you make a conversion, you pay the tax bill on any amount that you convert from your traditional IRA. So let's say you decide to convert $50,000 from your traditional IRA to a Roth IRA. So then you will pay tax. That $50,000 will be added to your other earned ordinary income, and then you will pay tax on it at the current tax rates based on your tax bracket. So essentially, by converting, you're making a choice to pay the tax now versus paying a tax down the road when you take assets out of your IRA. So the benefit of the Roth versus the traditional IRA is once you do the conversion, all future gains and distribution and growth are going to be tax-free. So when that 50,000 grows to 100,000, you don't pay any capital gains taxes. You don't pay any taxes on income from dividends or bonds. So you basically kind of lock in that conversion amount, and then any growth beyond that is going to be tax-free. And then when you get into your retirement, when you take that money out, it is also tax-free. The other big aspect of it is that you're also not required to make distributions from it. So again, if you have large retirement asset pool, your RMDs might be quite high in retirement. So this will also allow you to reduce the taxable income. And as I mentioned before, that in turn also reduces the taxable income you will have for Medicare and also Social Security benefit purposes. So really, there are three main benefits of why you want to consider a Roth IRA conversion. So the first one, as we mentioned, is that it's going to reduce your required minimum distributions when you get to age 72, and that could be quite a difference. The second benefit is also from a estate planning perspective, is that it's a much more effective tool to pass to your non-spousal beneficiaries. So let's say your children. With a traditional IRA, if you pass an IRA assets to your children, they will now have 10 years to take those assets out. There's no longer what used to be called a stretch IRA, where you can take it over your own lifetime. So it could really create quite a tax bill for your beneficiaries. With the Roth IRA, because it's tax-free, there's no tax to worry about. So your beneficiaries will benefit from not having to pay the tax on what they've inherited from you. And then the third is that when we work with our clients in wealth management, we always like to give our clients options. And by doing a Roth IRA, you adding another bucket to your portfolio of assets that has a different type of taxation. So, your traditional taxable accounts are going to be taxed for capital gains and dividends and income from the fixed income. Your retirement assets are always going to be taxed as ordinary income. And then Roth IRA gives you ability to put those after-tax dollars and have that you benefit from the tax-free growth and as well as tax-free distribution. So it will give you more choices to kind of where to take money out when you get to retirement. Some of you might say, well, that's a great concept, but I've heard it before, why now? Why are we talking about this now? And there are really a couple of reasons why now is the time to consider it, maybe more so than last year. One is we are in a very low tax rate environment. Regardless of kind of what side of the political spectrum you're on, most of us can probably agree that taxes are going to go up. How much and when still remains to be seen, and especially given the rising debt level due to the COVID-19 relief, the chances of taxes rising is even higher now than they were before. So you're basically kind of saying, you know what, let me pay the tax now and then have the benefit, have the benefit of the lower tax bracket. Another reason why now might be time to do it is because certain asset classes, for example, small cap, international, even mid cap, are still down from their highs. So if you're converting at a lower level, again, you're paying the tax on that conversion amount, and then you letting, when the recovery happens, you're letting it happen within a tax-free structure. You can actually benefit from, shifting the growth to a vehicle that is not going to be taxed. So so there's really is a very smart strategy. We've been having a lot of conversations with clients. I have a lot of clients that are going to be doing kind of analysis in the third and fourth quarter of this year and speaking to their accounts. So it is really important to make sure that if you're considering the strategy, you look at your overall financial picture. All of this, kind of goes hand in hand with all the other financial decisions you'll be making. So it's really important to take that into account, and also make sure that you have the current cash flow to pay the tax bill, because remember, any amount that you convert, you will be paying the tax now. So so you want to make sure that that's going to be taken care of. So if we go actually to the next page, just as and next slide, yeah. I thought I would share this this quote that I thought was so pertinent to what we're discussing today, and is a great segue to the rest of our presentation, and really serves the foundation of what we're talking about today. And that is, it is not how much money you make, but how much money you keep, how hard it works for you, and how many generations you keep it for. I feel like it really sums up kind of all the strategies and things that we want to talk to you about. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Barry, who's going to get more into how you can save on taxes and in residencies and the rest of the team. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Elena, and thank you, Monica. And it's very apropos that you talk about the rough conversions, as Karen and I and Jason's out. He worked totally on your residency changes, and this is a planning tool that we can use for clients who